Hey guys, Chelsea Phillips here. Welcome to my March 22nd DVD update. I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, if you enjoy these DVD Blu-ray updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up, share it around, leave me comments below. Would love to hear what you guys think. Always try to get back. Would love to hear what you thought about the films that I checked out in this update. Anything to check out for future updates. Now there's a lot of stuff in this update. A couple things too that I'm really excited to finally come out to DVD. The first one I'm going to talk about is from Paramount, and it's Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. Now this has, 3 different cuts of the movie, and I actually saw the PG-13 one in theaters and the R-rated one that came out for only 1 week only. The R-rated cut. And what they actually did with the R-rated cut was they actually went in, because, with these kind of movies, they shoot, it's pretty much all improvised. You kind of like do one scripted take and then do a bunch of just random kind of different takes, trying things different ways. So the R-rated cut actually went in there and changed out every single one of the jokes, pretty much all of them, and substituted them with kind of more R-rated jokes, extended some of the scenes. It's about 30 minutes longer. I really like the changes. I would actually recommend probably watching the R-rated one. I like the PG-13 cut, but there was some really funny stuff added in, and some stuff like went on and on to funny levels. But if you haven't seen this one, it also has tons of features on here. Deleted scenes, 9 minutes of 9 minutes of deleted and alternate scenes, line-o-rama when they have all the different lines, tons of different stuff on here. But the movie's basically picks up after the first one let off, and it's, Will Ferrell's character, and he doesn't have a job. I mean, he has his job with his wife and ends up getting fired, and she gets promoted, and he kind of leaves her and is down in the dumps, and he ends up getting hired by this 24-hour news network, and and he puts together the whole team together. It's kind of like a CNN kind of thing in the 80s when it's brand new, and he puts it together, and it's kind of him putting it together with the team, and that's pretty much what it is, kind of all the things that happen, him trying to get his wife back, things like that. Just a whole lot of really funny things. The R-rated cut, too, has an extended song scene, and they only use a little bit of that. There are some, like I said, though, I would really recommend watching the R-rated one. I had a lot of fun with this one. If you like the first movie, the first movie, when it came to Blu-ray, they had so much footage, they made a whole nother movie, like the Anchorman, Ron Burgundy, something or other. I remember that's on the old Blu-ray, but I would definitely recommend checking this one out. And the next one from Paramount as well is the Martin Scorsese film, which was actually up for Best Picture. The Martin Scorsese's The Wolf on Wall Street, which is the true story about, this stockbroker who made all this money, and, the downfall and everything that's going terrible with him. Leonardo DiCaprio was really good in this. I mean, I've always liked Leonardo DiCaprio. One movie that I loved him in that you never hear talked about that much is The Beach. That was just a really weird Danny Boyle film, which I really liked. This one is about him, starting off as this young stockbroker, and he starts selling these kind of penny stocks, and kind of it's like a scheme, and it kind of gives him an idea to, start doing these himself and building this business, and he grows and grows to this crazy level, and he's kind of abusive with drugs, drinking, having all these crazy parties, not really taking anything seriously, doing all kinds of drugs. There's definitely a very different role for Leonardo DiCaprio, because he really takes it pretty far, and that some people didn't like that, and I agree. Some of it was just a little pushing it, with the one scene with the shaving the head and stuff, but it was supposed to show, though, that he was kind of pretty much bad person, he really wasn't. That's why some people do you think that almost you don't really idolize with this guy, or at least I don't. I know he's someone that had a lot of money and things like that, but just the things that he was doing, and the crazy lack of caring about spending, and the things with his wife, and all kinds of things that were going wrong. I really liked it, though. There was some crazy stuff, too, with Leonardo DiCaprio using Quaaludes and falling all around on the ground. And I have a feeling, though, down the line there's probably going to be a longer cut of this down the line, because I know they cut 20-some minutes of it, so I don't know when that version's coming out. But a lot of times when a movie's up for an Academy Awards, the release doesn't have a whole ton of features, and then sometimes down the line there's another one. This one has a featurette on the film as well. The next one from Disney is Vince Vaughn and the Delivery Man, which is a remake. I think the film was I think it's a French film. I can't remember. I have not seen the original one, but it's Vince Vaughn as this guy who, when he was younger, donated sperm to a fertility clinic because he needed money. And they get into, why and stuff like that when he was younger. And this is, I think, like 20 years later, something like that. I think it's about 20 years later, and there was this glitch, and they ended up using his sperm for all these different kids. It was 533 different kids came from his sperm, and it was this huge mistake. And the kids all want to know who their father is, so they're trying to sue to try and figure out who he is. He knows, but he could kind of come forward if he wanted to. But it's kind of this thing about him, somebody who doesn't really have themselves together very much, and living, working for his father, and nothing's really going that great for him. And he ends up deciding to try and see these kids little by little, and kind of help them, almost like their guardian angel, and helping them with things. But they don't know who he is, you know what I mean? So he's kind of like going around and helping them with people. One guy needs to leave to go to an audition, but he can't leave because he's at work. He ends up covering for him, and all these different things. I thought this was a really well done, sweet, kind of fun movie. I like these kind of movies. I know that not everyone loves these kind of things, but I like Vince Vaughn. I think he carried this movie well. I think there was some pretty funny stuff in it. It has a bunch of different features on here, bloopers, deleted scenes. I would recommend checking out. Like I said, I have not seen the original one, though. The next one from Disney as well. This was a really good movie. I really like this one, which is Saving Mr. Banks. And you know me, I always love Disney. Always go to the theme parks. Always gone to Disney since I was a kid. When I was in Maryland, I was always going to the Florida park. And, out here, I try to get to Disney World a lot. I just always love Disney stuff. And especially like the old animation and those kind of things the best. And this movie is basically about trying to put together the Mary Poppins movie. And Walt Disney, played by Tom Hanks, and then the writer of the Mary Poppins movie, the Mary Poppins book, is played by Emma Thompson. It's basically about them bringing her over from England, trying to kind of wine and dine her to get her to sign off on allowing Walt Disney to make the Mary Poppins movie. This is when, when Walt Disney wasn't really talking about it, but he was pretty sick. You kind of see little hints to that. And then this is when it was like the last years of his life, wanting to get this thing done, because he promised his kids, who loved the book, that he was going to one day make it into a movie. But, years and years of him never getting anywhere with this woman, and she was kind of never agreeing to it. And he finally gets her to come for a meeting, to come and hopefully get her to agree on things. And it's all the kind of issues. She doesn't want singing. She doesn't like certain things. She doesn't like certain colors. She's kind of causing all kinds of problems. And it's them trying to put together this thing, put together the music, get her to agree on, every little detail. She has to have everything, before she signs off on this movie. I really thought that it was a well-done thing. Like I said, too, they have a scene when they go to Disney in the movie, too. They also have a thing on here, a tour feature, deleted scenes, going to the Disney backlot. I like this movie. I think, it's just a really nice, charming movie, especially if you like Disney. The next one, this is one that I've been so excited when I heard a couple months back that they were going to put this out, and they put it out as an entire series. Because, some of these kind of shows, they come out, the first season comes out, and that's it. And then later ones never come out. And it's the complete series of monsters from E1. And this is a show, there's a kid, I don't remember what channel it was on, but I remember as a kid really watching this. And I remember they put a couple episodes of this show out on VHS. I think maybe like 4 or 5 volumes with like 2 episodes or 3 episodes each. And I remember always renting them from, Blockbuster, in fact, in the days of VHS. But this is an anthology series from the late 80s up until I think like 91. And it was kind of made by a lot of effects people. It was a show that kind of dealt with a lot of monsters and a lot of creature effects and a lot of like real grim, paved the way to what before Tales from the Crypt, around the same time as Tales from the Dark Side, things like Are You Afraid of the Dark that came later, kind of had these kind of vibes, even the Goosebumps series, where things don't usually go well. They usually end on a sour note, and things that, there's a bunch of different ones on here. One talking about this woman who's dealing with like this, if she doesn't, she like this, in the world they don't like women to work, and there's like this gnome guy that's like messing things up until she quits her job, and there's all these kind of ones, one with a fallout shelter in the end of the war with vampires outside, so many different ones, the one with this farmer's daughter upstairs, it's all creepy, in this one room that you go into, there's just so many different great, shorts on this. It's a really, really, one of my favorite of these anthology series. I know they've played it on Sci-Fi and a couple of different things in the past. I think FearNet plays episodes sporadically, but it's great to see these all together, and they look as good as you're ever going to see them look. This is one, though, like I said, if you guys like anthology series, I cannot recommend this enough. They have cool artwork on these, and the shows are introduced by this monster family watching the episodes, so kind of like what they're watching on TV. And I always love the intro to it. Really cool, creepy, scary makeup on them. The next one from Severin Films is Thirst, and this is kind of paved the way for kind of some modern vampires. Even like the vampire film Vampire Academy kind of borrowed an aspect of this movie with people giving blood to the vampires. It was kind of interesting. I have a feeling it definitely came from this, because it had that same kind of vibe, but it's just this woman who's kind of related to a countess and ends up getting kidnapped and taken to this weird farm out in the middle of nowhere, where there's all these people kind of traipsing around, look real out of it, and it's kind of, they're using these people and making blood out of them, and putting them in like milk containers, and people are drinking them, and it's kind of her, and they're trying to condition her to make this woman want to drink blood, and it's all these crazy things going on in this place. It was a pretty cool one. Like, it's a very weird, and it's hard to explain some of the aspects of it. Kind of reminds me of some of like the 70s kind of vampire movies like Fascination and those kind of movies. A little bit of that kind of feel. It was made in 79, so it has that kind of feel, like Italian, some of the Italian and French ones. And Severin did a really good job cleaning this up, and also has isolated music score in it too, which is pretty cool that they've done that. That's something they used to do with movies years back, and you don't see them as much. They also did that with their release of Dead Kids, which I think also had another name, Strange Behavior. And this is kind of cool. The lead in this is the guy who played Billy the Kid in, the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. And this one, I don't think I had ever seen this one before, but I couldn't tell for sure. I might have listened to the music, because Tangerine Dream, who I absolutely love their music, did the score for this. A much more subdued score for them, though. It's not... With their stuff, it's usually real kind of fast, and this is more tones, and just sort of tones to it that fit well. There was some kind of choppy editing in this, and I don't know if it was the way it always was, or if it was because some of the transitions were standard def, and when they were making it, trying to make it flow as good as they could in HD. But, it's got a commentary on here with the cast, and looks really good. I thought Severin did a good job cleaning both of these movies up. But this is kind of like... the kid who's in it wants to raise some extra money so he can go to college for the fees, and his friend tells him about at the college that he actually wants to go to, they do these kind of testing, and you can get $200, $300 for going 2 nights to this thing. And he goes there, and it's something is very strange going on, and the people who go to this all end up coming back weird, and people start getting killed, and there's a scene with a guy wearing this Tor Johnson mask, and some crazy death scenes in this movie. Like I said too, like cool driving scenes, filmed in a way you don't see too much, like in the kind of back of the car, looking in with the Tangerine Dream music. I like this one though. Like I said though, it has some kind of peculiar editing in it that kind of goes a little bit weird, but it was only in like 2 or 3 places. I don't know exactly what that was, why it was like I said, I did not ever see the movie before, so I don't know if it was like that, but really, really like this one. This next one from Severin as well is a collection of trailers, exploitation films, which are all trailers from Australian horror films, and some of them are from New Zealand as well. And it has like Patrick and a number of different ones on here. I had one on here from one of my favorite movies, Dead End Drive-In, which is a great, film, which if you guys haven't seen that one. But this is a collection, though, of all kinds of different ones. BMX Bandits, Phantasm, Patrick, Road Games was this one I need to see. I don't think I've ever seen that with Jamie Lee Curtis. But this is a great, just, trailer collection one. The next one from Universal, this is one that I was really interested in seeing. And the one guy, has a little part in it who has all those tattoos. 47 Ronin in 3D, and actually looks pretty good in 3D. There's some cool elements with sort of things coming out and some snow. This is about Keanu Reeves, who, as a kid ends up getting found in this Japanese village, and he almost gets killed, and the guy who's like the head of the village, like the master, says, no, don't kill him, and he ends up like letting him live with him. And it's kind of about him kind of wanting to be taken seriously in this village of all these kind of samurais and things like that. And he doesn't, his, stepbrother, who takes him in, doesn't take him seriously. He even helps save him at one point early in the film and takes the credit for, killing this monster. And it's about these kind of, I never know exact terms, but the other village comes over there and something ends up happening. He ends up seeing this, like, woman, and basically what happens is something happens, and like the guy who saves Keanu Reeves ends up getting killed, and that kind of takes the whole village and screws everything up, and the one guy gets put into down in the ground for a year, and Keanu Reeves' character gets sold off into slavery, and it's about them trying to get back the woman that Keanu Reeves loves, and trying to get her back because she's getting forced into this marriage. Like I said, it's very confusing, very hard to explain. I was worried about trying to explain it. Some movies are really hard to explain, and while you're watching it, you're like, how am I going to explain this? But I liked it though. Like I said, it's a little bit different for Keanu Reeves. I thought that he was good in this one. But, still with me, like when it comes to Keanu Reeves, like my favorite ones to watch are like Bill and Ted and River's Edge. The next one, and this is one from Image that WWE just put out, which I think I saw this like probably like 20 years ago. I think it's been a very long time since I've seen this, because the Hulk Hogan movies that I always watch like all the time are Suburban Commando and Mr. Nay. Like those are the ones that I, as a kid, watched like a nutcase. I even actually saw Hulk Hogan, as a kid, like a really little kid. Maybe I was 5 or 6, something like that. And I used to always watch the pay-per-views as a kid. Like, to me, Hulk Hogan was always my favorite, Macho Man, Randy Savage. Him as well. And there's even some fights on here with him as a feature. But this was about Hulk Hogan playing this character, which is, I think it was called, Ripper, or the Rip. And, he's basically kind of like a takeoff on himself. And he's like with this network, and they don't really talk about that if it was WWF or not. You kind of see the ring, but I don't know if it was supposed to be. But he's with this like great network, and it's doing really well. The ratings are going really well, and this competing network, which is trying to get people to watch, wants to get him, Hulk Hogan's character, to come over to try and get the ratings up. And Hulk Hogan's really loyal to where he is, and just will not sign the contract. The guy who's in it is from Ghostbusters, that really, mean. I think he was the second or first. I can't remember which Ghostbusters he was in. I always think of him from that and Scary Movie. Tiny Lister is in this as well, who's really cool. He's been in tons of stuff, but, Hulk Hogan tries to get brought over and he won't. And the guy ends up, from the other network, trying to put together his own kind of wrestling match. And he kind of finds average Joes, like regular people, who fight each other. And he finds Tiny Lister's character, who's like this crazy, with this like kind of thing shaved into his head of this Z. And, he kind of tries to get Hulk Hogan to fight him in hopes of trying to get him over. And it's kind of like the whole thing about trying to get him to come over and fight. It's a really cool 80s movie. Had a lot of fun watching this again. Like I said, I have not seen this one so long. I think it looks pretty good on Blu-ray too. Like, this is the first time it's ever come out on Blu-ray. For the most part, I would say it looks pretty good. And like I said, it has a match on here with Zeus, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake, who's one I feel like I haven't thought about in a long time. The next one from Image is Odd Thomas. And this is from the director of The Mummy. And this is from those Dean Koontz, I think that's how you say his name, books. And he's wrote like Phantoms, and a number of different movies have been adapted from him. And this is about this guy, played by, always forget how you say his name. Anton Yelkin. I think that's how you say his name. You know, he's in the new Star Trek films, the Fright Night remake, Alpha Dogs. And he's this guy who has the ability to see dead people. It's not like Sixth Sense, though, but he has the ability to see dead people. And they can't talk to him, but they can kind of warn him and help him. He kind of like finds the people who have killed them and things like that, or the people who are going to kill someone. And he can see these kind of weird entities around them. And, you know, he can't make it known that he sees these things, but it's pretty much about, like, him seeing these things and helping out William Dafoe's character, who's a cop, and trying to solve it. But basically what ends up happening, though, he sees this one very weird guy who has all those bad entities around him, who's planning to do a terrible act of terrorism. It's kind of about him, you know, following this guy, trying to figure out what he's doing, what he's going to, you know, do terrorism to. I really liked it, though. I will say, though, I got really, like, kind of upset. It's got a cool cover, but I got really upset, though, with, like, some of the outcomes to it. It's just one of those ones where it's like, oh, I don't know if they're going to make any more of them, but it was just like, I was just sort of bummed out at the end a little bit. I'm not going to talk about what happens in it, you know, but it's just sort of like, just one of those bum out movies. The next one from Warner Brothers is I think this has come out in the past before, but it's the Best of Humphrey Bogart collection on Blu-ray, and has the Maltese Falcon, Casablanca, the Treasure of Sierra Madre, the African Queen. You know, it's the on Blu-ray, of course. And the new stuff that comes in this one comes with these lobby cards, which are pretty cool, original, like little mini movie posters for the films that are in here. And I'm not going to get into too much detail with the films, but really cool, you know, movies if you haven't seen these ones. You know, I would definitely recommend checking these ones out. And like I said, too, I think these have come out in the past, but I don't know if they were together before or not. I'll show you two inside. And here's inside. It's a little look just to see what it's like if you guys don't have this one. And the discs are on top of each other. Now, I'm trying to go through these a little quicker today because I have a lot of stuff. The next one from Warner Brothers as well is the Flintstone Kids. And this is another one that I, you know, kind of felt like everyone forgot about this, and was really pretty glad that it's finally out. This is one that I used to watch as a kid, like insane. And I used to have the toys. I don't think there was very many episodes, and I always remember one episode when they're making this kind of yogurt thing, and it always made me want to eat yogurt. I think it was some kind of yogurt or weird, real melted-looking ice cream. But it's yabba dabba, yabba dabba, yabba dabba do. We are the Flintstone Kids. And there's that other one that I always think of because it was the same time I was watching it. The Potato Head Kids. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how it is, but it's kind of the kid versions of the Flintstones and kind of the adventures that they go on. Like I said, though, I feel like if this is a show that you know this one or you don't, and I know this one really well, and I'm just really glad that it's out, because I felt like this was never going to come out, never see the light of day, because some of these shows get kind of forgotten about or come out maybe like only burn on demand. Hopefully they put out, you know, more volumes down the line, but I really liked it. There was also, you know, Scooby-Doo, the pup named Scooby-Doo. They did a lot of around that same time, the kid versions of things. But to me, that was the one I enjoyed the most. The next one from Warner Brothers as well is Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery, and it's kind of the Scooby-Doo, because you know years back they used to do a lot of these, and they still do occasionally. Scooby-Doo meets the Three Stooges, Scooby-Doo. I don't know if they did one with Gilligan's Island, but they used to do it a lot with different characters and things like this. So this is the gang going to this kind of WWE kind of training world. Like all the WWE stars are there training. I don't think you saw Hulk Hogan animated in this one because he didn't come back, because he just came back to WWE. So this was right before he came back. You see Kane, you see a number of the big ones in there, and then a couple like Sergeant Slaughter animated in there. So it's kind of cool to see some of the old wrestlers. You don't see as much animated. But there's like this kind of monster that are like killing, I mean, not really killing, but, you know, like attacking the people there, and people are disappearing, and the gang goes there to kind of investigate it, and Scooby-Doo ends up getting blamed for something that, you know, I had a fun time with this. Like, I always have liked Scooby-Doo, you know, Matthew Lillard, who's now kind of become the voice of, you know, Shaggy, which is pretty cool because, you know, he did the movies, and now he's like the official voice for it. The next one from Lionsgate. This is a show that I watch, you know, occasionally, and I never thought we would see it on Blu-ray, because there's certain shows, you don't know if they have the elements to put them out in, full HD. I knew it was shot on film, but, if they actually have the original negative and not just a version transferred onto, the tape. And it's Little House on the Prairie, the first season. It also has the original movie on here. Has a bunch of features on here, screen desk footage, 40th anniversary, like a documentary on it. I would say, though, it really, really looks good. They did a seriously good job cleaning up this show. And it's cool to see that they're going to start to put these out in HD. It just makes you wonder, like, all the other things that may start to come out down the line of shows, especially because some of these shows that have been kind of in, syndication, they kind of have poor prints of them, like just kind of syndicated versions or old tapes and things like that. There's such a CDs coming out. But this is about a family that moved into this like prairie to try this real kind of area in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of set like the 1800s and kind of all the adventures they go on and, hunting for food and all that kind of stuff. I always like this. It's just a fun family thing. And like I said, too, it adds to it being able to see it in HD. It gives it a whole different vibe. The next one from Lionsgate as well is The Appearing. And I will say, this is the first time, you can see on the back too, that I think I have ever seen the Psycho House, and Universal one, used in a movie as an actual location for something else. Like, if I'm wrong about that, let me know, but like, I don't feel like I've ever seen it in anything besides the Psycho movies. I don't know if I've never watched the Bates Motel show, so I don't know if they, are shooting there too. But it's this, it starts off in the beginning about these people going into the house and, the one goes missing and they're kind of investigating, and Patrick Swayze's brother is in it. And I think I've seen him in some other stuff, but he kind of reminds me of Patrick Swayze mixed with Ernest P. Worrell a little bit. Like, I kind of liked him in it, but it's, Dean Cain is in it as well as the doctor. It's this woman who moves to this new area with her husband, and I first thought that it was like her father because seemed like he was older than her. But, they moved there and they recently had a loss of their kid, and she's kind of trying to get over everything. And then she starts seeing this little kid walking around and trying to figure out what's going on. And at the same time, Patrick Swayze's brother is investigating, what's going on, where this kid went missing. Like I said, though, it was just kind of like taking me back a little bit, seeing in the film, the Psycho House, the front. Of course, when they go inside of it, it was just like this sort of set thing. It looked like a kind of, I think it was all shot on Universal. It was kind of like their sets. Like, the inside of the house, though, didn't look cool at all. It was like, I don't know. It just was weird. It was like, I've never seen anyone shoot. Like, let me know, though, if I'm like being crazy, but I just don't feel like I've ever seen anybody do that. The next one from Wogo USA, I really like this, with Jessica Biel. It's The Truth About Emmanuel. This is a little kind of confusing to explain this one, but it's this woman, Jessica Biel's character moves into this new house with her kid, and the girl next door, who lives with her father and her stepmother, her mother died in childbirth when she was, giving birth to her. And so she's always kind of blamed herself and has always kind of been depressed and kind of having a hard time getting over this and kind of feeling guilty, like she should be not here and all that kind of stuff. And, she sees Jessica Biel's character and she looks very much like the pictures she's seen of her mother. And she gets very obsessed with her and starts to kind of want to go over there, and she babysits and stays over there. But there's something very peculiar about the baby and something she discovers. And I don't want to ruin very much about this at all, but something she discovers and something she's kind of going on with and having to make sure no one else figures these things out. I really like this. There's some really great scenes too with water and like images of water and things in this. I thought Jessica Biel did a really good job. The main actresses from the show Skins, the UK show The Skins. I really like this though. It's a different kind of confusing film, but I really liked it. The next one from Fox is 12 Years a Slave, which is another film. It was up for Best Picture, which I believe, won for Best Picture. And, this was a story about a man who was, living free and ends up getting who plays the violin, plays music and is very, in the whole neighborhood, everyone likes him. And, and then it kind of shows, how terrible other parts of America were at this time. And he ends up, going to play this show. The one guy, from SNL, I think Cillian Murphy, ends up, with his friend's character, kind of getting him to come with him and kidnapping him and selling him into slavery. And this is someone who should not be in there and is free, and it's him, dealing with the terrible things of slavery. And it's very hard to take some of it, though, I will say. And like, it's one of those ones too that I would say that you can't really watch too many times. It's once you've watched it, maybe it'll be a couple years. It's kind of like Requiem for a Dream. I don't think I've watched that movie since I saw it. So the first time it came out. This movie's kind of like that. The next one from Cinedigm is Dark House, and this is from the director of Jeepers Creepers, and Tobin Bell from the Saw films is in this. And this is about this guy whose mother's been in the nut house for years, and she goes to see him, and it's pretty much him trying to go and see if she's still crazy. And she's like talking to things on the wall, and you hear this voice like, "Oh, take him little through the house," and all that kind of stuff. And she basically goes there, sees her, she's still nuts, and she ends up dying in this fire in the nut house. And then he ends up inheriting this house, and the house kind of has got this weird thing about it. It's not where it's supposed to be, but they believe that it was washed away in this flood and still intact and moved to a whole other area. So him, along with his girlfriend, and then along with these like random like workers that are like doing like street measurements. For some reason they come with him. And they come with him to try and help him find the house. And they get there, Tobin Bell's there with this like great weird wig on, or extensions and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, come into my house." And he goes in there and he's all acting weird, and when they go to leave, these weird people with axes are hunched over, coming after him, and then they kind of get themselves trapped in the forest with these people out there, and they keep on, everything is leading them back to this house. It was okay. I'm not going to say this one was that amazing. Like, the hunched over characters were kind of cool. Tobin Bell is always cool and everything. But that's pretty much all there was to this. There's not a whole lot to say. It was, like I said, it was okay. I probably would watch it again, but just not one I would go, "Oh, this was as," like, to me, I like the Jeepers Creepers, the first one. It was the director's other movie better. The next one from Horizon Films from Kino is Best Friends Forever, which is a really cool indie film. This is about these two girls that go on this road trip because the one's getting ready to move to Texas, and they're moving from LA, and they're kind of leaving right in the middle of the end of the world, and they don't really know it. They're going on this road, and this giant bomb explodes right when they're driving. They don't even notice it, and the whole world is a disaster, and they're just kind of going on the road, driving there. It's kind of about them running into these guys that try and take their car, and they still don't know. It's basically about them oblivious to what's going on, and kind of having arguments and things that have gone wrong. There's some cool stuff. The last 30 minutes of this movie aren't as cool as the stuff when it's mainly like them on the road and things like that. Once it gets to a different point, different tone to the movie, I didn't think it was as cool. I really did have a good time watching this, though. I thought it was pretty well done, especially for I think it was made through Kickstarter, I think, but I liked it. The next one from Accelerator Media. And this is actually the third one of these, and I thought it was only the second, but the first one was made in 2007 or something, but I always thought the last one that came out 2 years ago was actually the first, and it's Outpost, Rise of the Spentas. I guess that's how you say that. It's the third Outpost film. This is kind of the prequel to it, about, during the war, and it's Russians and the Germans, the Nazis. And the Nazis have this kind of serum that they're using to make people into kind of like zombies. Turn them into, and they kind of put them into this weird room where they lock the door, and it kind of makes their ears explode and turns them into zombies. It's kind of crazy, the way they do it. But it's these Russians that end up getting, they think that they've killed all these Germans, and they end up finding the Russians and kidnapping these group of them. And it's kind of them trapped in this underground bunker, with them letting out these zombies and them trying to get out. And I liked it. I thought there was some pretty cool sequences in this one. Some pretty cool zombies. It was kind of weird, though. Some of the zombies, they kind of just did their head, and they didn't do makeup on their bodies much. I'm like, why didn't they just do the head? And you could kind of tell there was this one guy, I think, playing a lot of the zombies because he had the same kind of build to him. But I thought it was pretty good, though. It was one of those ones, I didn't get bored with it. There's some movies you're like, oof. That one, I liked it, though. I thought it was I kind of like those, like, weird zombie movies. There's a couple different ones. Dead Mine, I watched maybe a year ago, which was a cool one as well. The next one from Comedy Central is Key and Peele, season 1 and 2 Blu-ray, and this is a funny sketch show, and the guys in this are from the later seasons. I think the last couple seasons of Mad TV, which is one of those shows that I really miss. But this is kind of very similar, kind of that, and then also kind of vibe of like Chappelle's show. I find it to be really pretty funny. The one guy was also in Hell Baby, which is a movie that I really liked. This is just a really fun sketch show. Has a bunch of different stuff on here, outtakes, commentaries. I would definitely check this out. Like I said, if you like things like Mad TV, Chappelle Show, it's a fun one. And also, it's kind of funny though, season 1 came out before, but season 2 is only out in this pack with the first one. I don't think that you can get the season 2 on its own. The next one from Anchor Bay is Machine Head, and this is about these girls who are going on spring break to stay at this kind of house, and they end up finding this guy who's in a car who's kind of chasing them around, and they end up getting away from the guy and going to the house, and it's pretty much about them in there, and the guy's outside, like, keeps ringing the doorbell and messing with them, and they're kind of, it's the friends and then the sisters, and they're kind of like all paranoid about what's going to happen with this guy. It was one of those ones that just, I didn't feel like as much stuff that could have happened in this. Shannon Hinnendale, who I was in the show Look with, the one episode of Look, she's in this. She was also in Embrace the Vampire, the remake. She was really good in this. I thought she really carried the movie really well. But there was some cool stuff in it, but not tons and tons of things have happened in this one. I think it's worth maybe probably more of a rental one, but I would watch it. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't feel like there was too much to it that I found like super, super memorable. The next one from Midnight Releasing is Rabid Love, and this one I didn't like. I don't really feel like the person who made this likes or knows horror movies very much. Like, me, like, I like to always find good things to say about stuff, but, like, for some reason, this was just bugging me. And it was, like, people going on a trip, and it was, it was all the typical stuff. But, when it's done right, it's okay. But they're out there, and they kind of, like, didn't have all the musts for these things. Like, when they say blood, boobs, beast, all that kind of stuff. It didn't have any of that kind of stuff. And even at the time when it thought it was going to have all these kind of things, it had them poorly done or cut away. And the monster was kind of weird. And it was like this guy with these claws. And it kind of dealt with scientific things as well, which scientific things sometimes work in these kind of movies. And this one didn't. I don't know. They're out there, and then once something happens with a friend, he goes missing. It's all these kind of peculiar things. I don't know. I hate when I don't like something. You know what I mean? I like to like stuff and look for good things in it, but that one just sort of sucked. But this one I really liked from Brain Damage. And, it slaughtered daughter stars Nicole Fury, and, Tim Dax, Ruby Locher, who, I was in, Mr. Bricks with Tim Dax and Nicole, and Ruby Locher I was in Zombie Babies with, and President's Day. This is about these, Nicole Fury, who's this woman who's kind of, like, living with her mother, and she's pretty nuts, and she's kind of, like, become a shut-in. And like when the beginning of the movie, she's like ripping her hair out, and she becomes obsessed with Tim Dax's character, who's this serial killer, and kind of like makes it like her total obsession with him, wanting to meet him. So she ends up actually going to the jail to meet him, and he kind of teaches her about how to kill people and his tricks and things like that. So she makes this whole plan about killing her mother and her, who's going to be her stepfather, and this whole thing. There's some crazy. It's done real 70s style, and Nicole Fury's doing these great, like, crazy, bugged out eyes. I just really, really like this. I like these kind of movies. I love these kind of throwback kind of movies that are done well. And I thought, to me, this was done very effective and some really cool stuff in it. The next one from Arc Entertainment is the new Alicia Silverstone film called Angels in the Stardust. And it's about this girl who lives in this kind of it's a trailer park which was built on an old abandoned drive-in theater, and she's always out there. The girl's always kind of like talking to the screen and stuff. So I don't know if she's supposed to be like I don't know. She's kind of like this imaginary like this guy who she watches movies from, who's like in these old West films. She's always talking to him about things. It's about kind of her living this trailer park with her mother, and her mother's starting to see all these people, and it's sort of about her, the girl trying to make something of her life, and the mother's like, when are you going to get married, and kind of wants her to follow in the same footsteps she does, and really do not a whole lot with herself. And it's kind of about her, like one of those movies about kind of growing up and kind of discovering things and trying to make something of yourself. I thought it was okay. I thought Alicia Silverstone and some of the people were kind of struggling with doing the accents in it, because they were trying to do like southern accents, and sometimes that comes across like, if it's not done perfectly, a little bit kind of comical. And I didn't think some of the accents were perfect. I thought that kind of took out of the movie. Like, I've always loved Alicia Silverstone films, especially like Blast in the Past and Clueless. That was the main reason I wanted to watch it. I thought she was good for the most part. It was just like the accent on it, and like I said, it was okay. The next one from E1 as well is the new digibook of Iron Sky, which is the director's cut, which I talked a lot more about this in the past update, when the original cut came out. But this is a great one about, where in 1934, when the Nazis were, it was over and the whole Nazi thing was over, they all left on a ship and went to the moon. And it's about a group of people, astronauts, landing on the moon. And they end up landing on like the dark side of the moon and finding the Nazis. And the one guy ends up getting kidnapped by them. It's kind of about him trying to escape and get off there, while the Nazis are also planning to go back to Earth, and and they're all kind of stuck in the past. And Hitler's long dead, and this is in the future, and they're all still acting like they did back then, and real full of hate and everything. It's just a really trippy, weird movie. Udo Kier is in this. This is the one I really, really had such a fun time watching this one. Would definitely recommend this. It's a cool tin edition, too. The next one from Anchor Bay is Mandela, The Long Walk to Freedom, which is the story of Nelson Mandela's life. And it's all about, his early days, and, as a political, person who was all about, the rights of his people in South Africa and all that kind of things. And it's about, his imprisonment in jail for all the years and all the things that he went through. Really, really well done movie. The actor who played Nelson Mandela was, the lead, one of the main guys in Pacific Rim. It's like, we will fight. He's really good in this. Really well done story about his life. Just sad, all the things that he goes through, but just a well done one. I said, guys, I'm sorry this is a long update, but there's a lot of stuff in this one. The next one from Vertical Entertainment is the Danny Trejo film, 20 Feet Below. This is one that I was really interested in seeing, but didn't really like this very much. I always loved Danny Trejo, and the subject of Danny Trejo, was so happy that he had such a great part in the new Muppets movie. But this one is about this I always love underground movies and things like this, but this underground society under the train tracks of these kind of criminals and stuff run by Danny Trejo, and the cop, an ex-cop who's living down in the other tunnels and kind of trying to investigate the whole thing and try and get them out of there because they're killing everybody. I just didn't think it held my interest very much. I just didn't love this one very much, and that's essentially all what it really was. The next one from Lionsgate is the Drake Bell. Drake Bell did a voice in this. Ashley Tisdale, Jane Lynch, John Lovett, Keith Davids, Birds of Paradise. And this is one of those kind of fast animated kind of ones, which I think is kind of done almost like a game, where they kind of, when they talk, it moves. It's not like real crazy detailed rendered animation. I've watched a couple different ones of this kind of style. It's just, to me, it's just not amazing animation, and I don't mind that, but it just takes you out of it a little bit. But it's basically about this bird, voiced by Drake Bell, who's just kind of a regular bird who wants to be special, wants to do something special with himself, and about this other bird who ends up escaping, it's like a real fancy bird that ends up escaping from their, their cage, and then those two meet, and it's about Drake Bell gets like paint on him and wants to get in this race and try and be special. It's one of those kind of things about learning about things. There was some funny stuff in here with John Lovitz in this. I don't know. It was kind of a fun movie, but like this, I said, the animation is not like up to. You can't compare it to things like Pixar or any of that kind of stuff. Last ones I got from Mill Creek, and this I'm glad this is finally out, and they're going to be putting these out. And it's Dennis the Menace, the original one. Like I said, there's a lot of classic things I watched as a kid in this update. Dennis the Menace, the show. This is one too I always remember in the morning when I was going to school. Like they were always having the reruns at like 6 or 7 in the morning. So I always remembered seeing this. But the classic Dennis the Menace cartoon, and it also has like I also got the Totally 80s volume from the TV Guide put together. It has Dennis the Menace, the Littles, Heathcliff, the Care Bears, City Town Clowns, the Get Along Gang, which I don't remember all these other ones as well. Hopefully down the line too, Popples comes out, which I can't believe no one has put them out on DVD at all. But anyway though, guys, like I said, I'm sorry this was a really, really long update. I had so many different things in this update. But anyway though, guys, thanks again for watching and subscribing. I know this is probably like 50 minutes, but I'll see you guys later. Bye.